Hello and welcome to our Championship End of Season Awards. This is the show where myself and my brilliant co-host Tom Chappell will be showcasing the worthy teams and individuals that have made this season so special.
Should we begin with award number 1?
Let's do it. That is Club of the Season, and these are your nominees. There are 2 nominees for this award. The first, Scott Parker's Burnley. Following relegation from the Premier League last season, they bounced back at the first time of asking. The Clarets have accumulated 100 points, set some astonishing defensive records, and only missed out on the title by goal difference. This season's title winners are our second nominee. Leeds United clinched the title on the final day of the season, following a comeback win over Plymouth Argyle. Alongside Burnley, they also wrapped up a remarkable 100 points, scoring a total of 95 goals. Daniel Farke and his players learned the cruel lesson of missing out on promotion last time out. He ensured it wouldn't happen again. And our club of the season, Tom, we are going to give it to Leeds United. And
Surprise, surprise.
yes, I think it was harsh, and we were just having this conversation a second ago. 2 teams finishing on 100 points, Burnley not grasping the title, although they did win on the final day. Goal difference is the reason why they are finishing second. I did see the celebrations. They don't seem overly concerned by it, but a league title is a league title, and Leeds United, Daniel Farke, they've done it. They beat Plymouth. They came back to win that match, and they are our club of the season. 100 points, a great campaign.
Yeah, I think we both maybe predicted on the previous jam, didn't we, that we were both in absolutely no doubt that Leeds were going to get promoted. I don't think either of us actually went for them to be champions, but they were. And yeah, you're right. Burnley, I don't think devastated's the word, because they won't be, because they're promoted as well. But they'll be feeling a little bit gutted, I would imagine, that they have missed out on such a small margin, having had such an excellent season. They've conceded the fewest amount of goals. That's very well documented. But Leeds have been absolutely magnificent, Jack. And I did want to add that 24 more goals that Leeds have scored. That is 24 more goals than anyone else in the division. And also 30 clean sheets for Burnley is absolutely ridiculous too. So 2 worthy nominations for Club of the Season. Naturally and obviously it's going to be Leeds United who are our deserving winners. If you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all?
Next, it's time we go slightly more negative and speak about our biggest underachievers. We didn't say we were a positive award show. We said we'd shine a light on every aspect of the season. And there are a few teams that let themselves down. This is the biggest underachiever award, and these are your nominees. There are 4 nominees for this award. We'll start with Cardiff City, as their relegation was confirmed a week before the final day. They finished the season bottom, 5 points adrift from safety. It's back-to-back relegations for Luton Town, who will return to League One after only competing in the Premier League last season. Rob Edwards kept his job despite an abysmal set of results before Matt Bloomfield arrived in an attempt to change the Hatters' fortunes. Results improved, but it was all too little too late, and a defeat against West Brom on the final day secured their disappointing fate. Hull City stayed up by goal difference after a draw against Portsmouth on Saturday afternoon, but as seasons go, it was one to forget for the Tigers. The Tim Walter experiment ended a disaster, and although Ruben Sellers has improved them, it looks like there's still plenty of work to do. Preston looks safe and sound after Paul Heckingbottom replaced Ryan Lowe, but following 1 win in 14, they were seriously dragged into danger. A draw was enough to ensure safety on the final day, but they certainly did it the hard way. We have come to a decision, and it seems there was only one winner for that. They got relegated on the final day. Luton Town. Tom, it's been a terrible season, back-to-back relegations, given the Premier League campaign last season. Quite a fighting effort, but the Championship has not gone well whatsoever. Rob Edwards was sacked. Bloomfield came in after he left Wycombe Wanderers. They did have a real resurgence, but as I was writing this and talking and thinking about making this video, they left that sacking potentially far too late, and it was not Bloomfield's reign that got them relegated. It was that turgid time before that. But a 5-3 defeat against West Brom on the final day means they'll be playing back in League One next season, and it is back-to-back relegations. I think that's a pretty fair big underachiever award.
It is, and it's irritating from a Luton Town point of view that all they really needed on the final day was a point, and they went and lost the game quite royally. So, yeah, disappointed for Luton Town, and we wish them all the best in League One next season. What I would say is it's one hell of a story. To think that they were promoted back to League One, 7 years ago, and have already managed a season in the Premier League in between that time as well. Yeah, it's never boring as a Luton fan at the minute, is it? So you're right on the sacking of Rob Edwards and Matt Bloomfield. I think that perhaps there was a little bit of an emotional tinge to it that left them going for quite as long. I think looking back, obviously everyone's got an A-level in hindsight, but to wait until January, I don't think it's been good under Rob Edwards all season at all, really, if you look at it. So I think that trigger should have been pulled a lot earlier. And actually, we were almost sat around as neutrals, weren't we, looking at thinking it's a case of when, not if, Luton are going to sack Rob Edwards. But because of that emotional connection that they have to the guy, and that's absolutely fair enough, and there's no surprise that there is such a connection given that what they've achieved under him, what he's delivered to that football club. But I just think football is such a business game, and you really have got to pull the trigger when you need to, and if you don't, you end up facing the consequences like this and end up being our underachievers for the season, which is probably not as bad as a relegation to League One, but it's not a great accolade nonetheless.
And I don't want to see me, 'cause I don't think they'd understand.
Next, we are flipping it to the biggest overachiever, the teams that have done exceptionally well, potentially against the odds. These are your hopefully happy nominees. There are 4 nominees for this award, and we'll start with Derby County. John Eustace replaced Paul Warne in February, and after a goalless draw on the final day, secured a place in the Championship next season. Pompey were without a win after 10 games, but following a few tweaks stylistically, they mathematically avoided relegation after a win against Watford at home. Oxford United made the controversial decision to sack Des Buckingham after a home defeat against Sheffield Wednesday back in December. But since the arrival of Gary Rowett, things have felt far more solidified and avoided the drop with 1 game to spare. And finally, Bristol City will be competing in this year's playoff campaign with a chance to reach promotion to the Premier League. It's been years of mid-table mediocrity for City, but this time something feels different. And Tom, we couldn't give it to one team. We actually couldn't give it to 2 teams. I've changed it, and you don't know this yet. I'm going to give it to 3.
Wow.
Fair play to Portsmouth, Oxford and Derby County for all getting promoted and for all staying in the Championship. You've followed us, probably a large majority of you, from the days in League One last season watching this. And it's so fantastic that we're going to get another season doing this together and with our Derby fans watching at home as well. I think it's a great celebration that all 3 teams have managed to cope with the brutality of the Championship. First time of asking, with some of the smallest budgets in the league. Derby, Oxford and Pompey are very different to the likes of Birmingham and Wrexham being promoted into the Championship this season. They have not got that scale of budget, and they've still managed to stay up, all in the end by a pretty comfortable, or comfortable-ish, points tally. Tom, Pompey, Oxford, Derby, the new boys at the start of Jam, will all be competing for a place in the Championship again next season. That's so fantastic, I think.
It is, and if you think about it, at points during the campaign, you take any...
We all had a blip. We all had our
massively.
little, where we're like, oh God, this is the team that's going to do it. But in the end, we're all like...
me and you had a conversation. Actually, we had the same conversation at many points during the season when you said when Pompey are having a little bit of a resurgent run, it seems to be that Oxford are having an absolute nightmare, and then the other way round. There were points where you were above us this season in the league. They're now come to the end of it, and Pompey have finished highest of
point. We were 2 points below it.
Exactly. So it's tight, and as history will tell you that Pompey finished the highest of all 3 promoted sides, but as you say, it's all very close run thing. And I think that maybe builds into the more broad argument, actually, that the Championship is such a league of fine margins. I think we've seen that between the 3 teams many times this season, particularly from a Pompey point of view, where I thought, oh my word, there's very little telling me that we're not going to go down at this current moment in time. I think Dan said it on my video yesterday that if you'd asked any Pompey fan on a Tuesday night in the middle of October, here's 16th and you'd be 10 points clear of bottom place and you'd stay up with interest. I think everybody would have absolutely taken that and more. So it's been really, really good. The one thing I would say in terms of making a broader argument is goal difference for me at the bottom end of that league. If you look at it, all the 3 teams that have gone down all have really, really poor goal differences, and you sort of thinking 20s, 30s in terms of the minus goal difference, whereas your likes of Pompey, Derby and Oxford have all got a far, far better goal difference. So actually, it's not rocket science in the Championship. Be hard to score against, nick a few, win enough games, you'll be absolutely fine. If you start shipping 5-6 goals a game like we were before the turn of the year, all of a sudden that moment that John Messino used his sort of pragmatic approach to go, actually, we need to be shipping less goals, otherwise we're on a one-way route back to League One. And I think that's something that all 3 teams have adopted quite nicely. So be hard to beat, score a couple, have a few decent wins, but also, when you know that you're in a game with someone, play it properly. And actually, we spoke about this in your front room earlier on today, didn't we? There's a certain style of play that maybe Gary Rowett wants to employ. John Eustace, I'm sure, at Derby does, and John Messino certainly does at Pompey. At the moment, squad at the disposal, we've basically, as 3 clubs, all equally had to find a way of staying up. Maybe it will come in terms of the playing style in future, but at this moment in time, we've just moved absolutely heaven and earth in whichever means necessary in order to stay up. Hopefully a bit of a style of play shift with a bit more comfort in a second season in English football will continue, or will come about next season.
But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all?
Next is our Golden Glove. People say goalkeepers don't get enough credit. Well, this is the award perfect for that.
It's just for you.
It's just for you, goalkeepers. This is the Golden Glove and the nominees. There are 4 goalkeepers nominated for this award. The first is Pompey's Nicholas Schmid. After joining in the summer, fans were unsure exactly what role he would play. In the end, he started 35 games, kept 8 clean sheets, and actually racked up 2 assists as well. Michael Cooper left Plymouth for Sheffield United in August and has not looked back. He nailed down the number 1 spot immediately, finishing the season with 21 clean sheets from 43 matches. James Trafford was a crucial aspect of Burnley's defensive successes this season. The Englishman broke numerous records, including a remarkable 29 clean sheets from 45 games. Victor Johansson's heroics at Stoke did not change this season. The Swede played a pivotal role in Stoke's survival, making the most saves for a goalkeeper in the division along the way. And of course, Tom, there was, I think, only 1 winner for the Golden Glove. Sorry, nominees, that was probably a wasted segment. You've all done fantastically well, but unfortunately, you were competing in a division with James Trafford in goal for Burnley, and he is our Golden Glove winner because, Tom, the numbers, the clean sheets, the save percentage, the achievement of promotion back to the Premier League when, to be honest, he was laughed out of the Premier League last season, the comeback story and the ability to go, no, I'm actually a top goalkeeper, I think is a fantastic achievement for him. And if there was an award for goalkeepers this season, I think James Trafford wins it very comfortably. And he is our Golden Glove winner.
He is our Golden Glove winner, yeah, and not to shame any of the nominees, because I think there's some really, really good goalkeepers in there. I think if you put James Trafford or Michael Cooper in that Leeds United side, I think they would have won promotion and been champions probably 3 weeks ago, let alone on the final day and a couple of weeks before that in terms of automatic promotion. So, and a shout out for Nico Schmid as well. I think some of the saves that he's pulled off, if his name was James Trafford, they would have been publicised beyond anyone's imagination and they would have been absolutely everywhere. But that is not to take away from our winner, James Trafford, who has been absolutely superb. He's a brilliant shot stopper. I think if you've watched Burnley enough this season, you will see exactly the way in which they go about attaining those clean sheets. It is not only through fantastic shot stopping, but actually reducing the number of shots they actually face so that James Trafford not only doesn't have to make as many world-class outstanding saves that he's done a number of this season, but actually you stop him from needing to face a lot of those, and that's actually sort of almost half the battle there in that sense. So yeah, I think he's immense. I think he will hopefully be able to continue that in the Premier League next season and get a second opportunity at showcasing himself in the Premier League. And I think he's a very much deserving Golden Glove winner.
And I don't want to see me, 'cause I don't think they
signing of the season. The transfer window is used to bring in players that can definitely improve your squad. And last summer and in January, a whole host of clubs did exactly that. And these are some of your signings of the season and the nominees. There are 4 nominees for signing of the season. The first is Manor Solomon, who joined Leeds United from Tottenham on loan in the summer. The winger scored the winning goal on the final day to secure Leeds United the title, finishing the season with 10 goals and 12 assists. Josh Murphy's frightening form at Oxford only continued at Pompey. The winger ended the campaign with 7 goals and a brilliant 14 assists, the joint most in the Championship this season. Ayo Tanaka signed for Leeds in the summer for a reported £4 million fee, and since his arrival from Germany has been a Rolls Royce in the centre of the park. His ability to break up play, begin build-ups from deep and chip in with 7 goal contributions has not gone unnoticed at Ellen Road. Finally, Jack Rodoni scored twice on Saturday to secure Coventry a place in the playoffs this season, and we shouldn't have expected anything less. Since joining from Huddersfield in the summer, the box crasher midfielder has racked up 12 assists and has scored 9 goals. And our winner is a move from Huddersfield to Coventry. It's Jack Rodoni. What a season he's had. He's our signing of the season. There was some really tough competition, but right at the death, we decided to go with Jack Rodoni, and hopefully for him, he can take that form into the playoffs because his season isn't over yet.
No, and this is someone I brought to your attention last night when we were sort of chatting about the final prep for this video. As you've mentioned in the nominees bit, I think Josh Murphy deserves a massive, massive mention. I'd said on Pompey Plus yesterday that I don't think Pompey stay up without Josh Murphy. I just think he's been absolutely immense, and at times actually probably one of the only real routes to goal in terms of an attacking sense for Pompey this season has been straight through Josh Murphy. His assist numbers have been club record breaking in terms of what he's delivered for us, and I just think he's been all round such an excellent player and almost picked up every single award at the club this season. However, Jack Rodoni, his 2 goals yesterday, his 12 assists over the course of the season, a number from set pieces in terms of those assists, but also he drifts out of that number 10 role, heads over to what is usually the right-hand side and can put an absolute killer of a delivery in, and that causes absolute chaos and has done on a number of occasions this season. Also, Jack, he's got such an aerial threat, and he scored one in the air yesterday. I remember describing him on this show in January. I think you might have mentioned it, that he's a box crasher, and I think he's really brought that to Coventry.
Frank Lampard is a box crasher back in his day. I'm not comparing Frank Lampard's ability to Jack Rodoni in the Championship just yet, but I'm saying that there are those old school midfielder traits that are really, really nice, but rare now actually. Players that you sort of just go, where's he come from? That's brilliant.
I think there's something quite romantic that Jack Rodoni is almost following in Frank Lampard's footsteps in terms of, as you say, that old school quality and trait that Frank used to have as a player. And actually, there's something quite romantic, isn't there, about the fact that he is now his gaffer, and he's I'm sure Jack Rodoni was a massive admirer of Frank Lampard growing up as a player, so or growing up to be a player. So yeah, really nice, and I think quite nice actually that's someone that we maybe designated right at the start of the season as was maybe someone to watch, and has now come to reap the rewards and become our signing of the season here on the channel.
Close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing changed at all?
Next is manager of the season, and there was a lot of controversy in the original prediction.
Quite rightly so, by the way.
They say original. We know this is really the original, obviously. So we've done it slightly differently. We would like to congratulate Scott Parker and Daniel Farke for their achievements. It's fantastic. They've got and done their job. And managers are paid to win games and to reach the objectives that are aligned with the football club they're at. And for Burnley and Leeds, it was to get back into the Premier League, and they've done that. And Scott Parker's defensive records and the way he's organised that team, dealt with the chaos of relegation, and that squad that had just been hit by relegation and still got them promoted in that manner is fantastic. And his Championship pedigree is phenomenal. Daniel Farke, again, learnt the lessons of last season. I think has adapted in certain areas too. They are better than last season. They've finally done the job. They won the league title. They have done and completed their objective of reaching the Premier League. However, we've done our award slightly differently. We wanted to give it to a manager that has maybe gone and done something that is perhaps unexpected or slightly more carefully put difficult in that sense. So these are our nominees for our slightly different Manager of the Season. There are 5 nominees for Manager of the Season, and we'll start with John Eustace at Derby County. Following a controversial exit from Blackburn Rovers, Eustace made the decision to join relegation fighters Derby. After a tricky start to life at Pride Park, 4 straight wins were around the corner, points that eventually proved crucial in their survival. Liam Manning guided Bristol City into the playoffs after a comeback draw on the final day, racking up a final points tally of 68. They host Sheffield United for the first leg on Thursday, hoping to take an advantage to Bramall Lane. Frank Lampard's time at Coventry has been transformational, saving the Sky Blues from relegation concerns initially and now propelling them into Premier League contention. They finished the season in 5th, accumulating a remarkable 69 points. Gary Rowett joined Oxford United in December and made an instant impact. The youth went 9 games unbeaten following his arrival, securing 5 wins along the way too. A tricky run of fixtures ensured Oxford wouldn't get themselves out of it comfortably, but with a game to spare, Gary secured Oxford's championship status. Finally, John Mousinho was the only newly promoted manager to keep his job, with the loyalty paying off. After a difficult start to the season, it was clear Mousinho needed to adapt. He did, and kept Portsmouth in the championship by a 5-point cushion. And we've decided, Tom, that although there are some great achievements there, managers that have kept teams in the division, teams that have come in difficult periods and done well, two managers that will be competing in the championship playoffs in the next couple of days. But because of where the club were when he was appointed, because of the difficulty of that appointment, simply because his reputation wasn't at the best that period, we've given it to Frank Lampard, and he has done a magnificent job. They were in a very, very poor position when he took over. The popular Mark Robins was sacked. That was very controversial at the time. And people were thinking, Frank Lampard, why is this manager back? That's a good job at an ambitious football club. But to get them into the playoffs, to finish 5th, and now be going in, to a competition with a chance of reaching the Premier League, I think this is a really nice thing for Frank Lampard. And he's finally proving people that with that ability to have a bit more control, with a bit of time, with a good group of players, because the jobs he's taken off in the Premier League have actually been terrible jobs, a lot of them. But if you give him a nice, comfortable job, as it were, where he can get his teeth into things, he's actually really proving to be quite exciting.
I think it shows, doesn't it, that if you give Frank Lampard a job where he's not fighting with one hand tied behind his back, or in some cases for him 2 hands tied behind his back and just trying to kick away as best he can, for want of a better analogy, he actually does really deliver. And, as you say, we're recording this before the playoff campaign has started, so we don't quite know what that's going to bring. But I think, arguably, are they probably the best placed team in terms of form going into the playoffs right now? I'd argue they probably are. They were 17th in November when he took over, Jack. They're now 5th in the championship, which is absolutely remarkable. I would like to say a massive shout out to John Eustace, Gary Rowett, and of course John Mousinho. We've spoken about those 3 clubs at length earlier on in this award show. I think, in my opinion, it's a better achievement on a lower budget to keep a team in the championship than it is to promote them to the Premier League with a massive budget. That might be an unpopular opinion. I would say that that's the case, and maybe there's a little bit of bias in terms of supporting a club that's down there and has been really fighting for it this season. I think Gary Rowett probably, and you'd be at better place to talk about this than I am, but in terms of the way in which that all happened and how it all was, you weren't exactly on the precipice when Buckingham was sacked, but equally Gary Rowett had a massive job on his hands. And there was even a time during Gary Rowett's tenure when you told me, I'm not quite sure about Gary, and then all of a sudden that flipped. I think Liam Manning's had a terrible, terrible year personally, and we've spoken about that on the show before, and that I don't think will be what Liam Manning will want this season to be remembered by, of course, although it's really tragic for him and his family. He will want the season to be remembered for the brilliant success he's had at Bristol City and securing them a playoff place in the dying embers of the last day almost. So, yeah, excellent. I don't need to say any more about John Mousinho. I think the job he's done has been ridiculously good. I think in terms of his man management style, I think the way in which the club gets him, he gets the club, how in debt he feels to the club taking a risk on him in the first place back in the early days when he was appointed nearly 3 seasons ago now, or 2.5 years ago. So yeah, he's done magical things, and he's delivered success year on year now to the city of Portsmouth when we're absolutely crying out for it. But I think the top line of this is that Frank Lampard has done a super job. He is super frank. And I was actually there and witnessed a night which I would maybe look back on, and Sky Blues fans might argue with me, but that night when they beat us in the last minute and it was a tight game, but they found a way, is exactly the kind of thing that I think Frank Lampard was brought in to do and to deliver. Is that they were in a tight game, but all of a sudden you score a last minute winner and that changes the complexion of the outcome completely. So yeah, massive well done to all the managers nominated, and most of all Frank Lampard.
And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think they'd
Next up, we're going to be looking at some of the exciting young talent in the Championship this season. It's our Young Player of the Season. It's been a phenomenal campaign for some young, exciting prospects making a difference at this level. And these are your nominees. There are 4 nominees for Young Player of the Season. The first, Shay Charles on loan from Southampton, who stood out brilliantly at 21 years of age. The Northern Irish midfielder has played in a variety of positions for Sheffield Wednesday during the campaign, catching the eyes of most. Joe Bellingham has developed even further at Sunderland this time around, racking up 4 goals and 3 assists from central midfield. His strong frame and powerful dribbling ability has been on display all season and will need to continue if Sunderland want a successful playoff campaign in the coming weeks. Callum Doyle has impressed for Norwich City this season, playing a large number of games at left-back. His physical and technical abilities were useful at both ends of the pitch, leaving Carrow Road with 8 goal involvements from the back. And finally, 17-year-old Chris Rigg has taken to regular Championship football like a duck to water. His footballing brain and unique abilities at such a young age in the middle of the park are causing headlines all across Europe. And our winner is going to be a Sunderland player. That knocks out 2 of those nominees because both Joe Bellingham and Chris Rigg were in there. Tom, we've had a heated debate. And we've gone with, purely because of the age and the way that he has come on leaps and bounds this season, Chris Rigg. He's 17 years of age. He's played so many games in the Championship this season. And although Sunderland are heading into this playoff campaign with some pretty terrible form, there's going to be players like Chris Rigg, the exciting young players with, we know the pressure that comes with the playoffs. They have to play with a bit of actually freedom. And Chris Rigg can do that. We've seen that this season.
I think if Chris Rigg was Spanish, he'd be getting the same recognition as someone like Lamine Yamal is at the minute. He genuinely, and I know that it's maybe we've got to the end of a season. Everyone's kind of been talking about Chris Rigg for a little while, and it maybe feels like a little bit of a, maybe even slightly tired debate and chat. But when I saw him at Fratton Park back in August, honestly, I don't think I've seen someone as young as him and as talented as him orchestrate a game of football from the middle of the park as well as he did that day. He was brilliant, and he's been brilliant. I know he's not been available absolutely all the time for Sunderland this season, and that'll be something that I think they have missed out on at times. But I just think he's just got so much going for him. He's got an incredibly bright future at this level and the level above. They are so lucky to have him. I think it's a close run thing. You've waxed lyrical about Callum Doyle on a number of different videos that we've made together. I think there's a great shout for Shay Charles and also his fellow teammate Job as well, who's, I think there's quite a lot out there about, if Job didn't have the surname Bellingham, would people really be sitting up and taking as much attention or giving him as much attention? I think that's absolutely ludicrous. I think he can stand on his own 2 feet at being an absolutely brilliant young player. So we're going with Chris Rigg, but equally I think it's a very hot and contested category.
Does it almost feel like nothing changed at all?
That's the big one. It's his player of the season. Only one player can be crowned the official EFL
Oh, it is official
player of the season. There was some controversy, but don't worry, we are going to shine a light on everybody because these are our nominees. This was so difficult. There's been some great individual performers.
There's more nominees than any other award for this one, aren't there? Which maybe is telling.
I think we made a decision. These are your nominees. There are 5 nominees for our Championship player of the season, and we begin with James Trafford. After already picking up the Golden Glove, it would be disrespectful to ignore the brilliance of James Trafford in comparison to individuals across all positions of the pitch. Gus Hamer's had another brilliant season for Sheffield United with 9 goals and 7 assists. Chris Wilder is hoping his magic will continue as Sheffield United enter the playoffs this week. Manor Solomon provided when it mattered most, finishing the Championship campaign with a fantastic 10 goals and 12 assists. Ayo Tanaka was nominated for signing of the season earlier, with many Leeds fans saying he's been the key cog at Ellen Road all season. Maxime Mesteve was a brick wall for Burnley all season, playing a vital role in Scott Parker's unbreakable back line. He also started every single league game for the Clarets this season. And our winner, after some conversation, we're going to give it to Leeds United winger Manor Solomon, because his influence over the last couple of weeks has been nothing short than exceptional. The final day drama that came with it, the crucial goals in the run into the campaign, and he still managed to rack up 22 goal contributions in 30 starts, which is fantastic. He grew into the campaign, a signing on loan from Tottenham in the summer that come the end of it has proved to be absolutely brilliant. Tom, you put his name forward. We could have picked Gus Hamer, who won the award, of course, and his numbers are great too. You look at the players like Dan James, his Leeds United teammate, who's been great. Tanaka's come in and done a fantastic job in that Leeds United midfield. Some people have been saying James Trafford, although he's a goalkeeper, has been the best player for what he's done. And goalkeepers and defenders, Esteve from Burnley too. That defensive record and goalkeeping record at Burnley, as we mentioned earlier, is phenomenal. But a title winner in Manor Solomon, and the fact that he was the player that earned them the title too, I think, for us, gives him that award.
I think big shout out for Josh Brownhill as well. Is another one on Burnley side, which he has had the most fantastic of seasons. And actually that, you know, when we've spoken about Burnley's defensive numbers early, didn't we? But when you're putting up those kind of numbers, then you absolutely need to be in there for it. And I know we talk about numbers and we talk about whatever, but the sheer emotion and romanticism and glory that comes with scoring the goal that secures your side the label and title as champions of the league, I think is an automatic nomination for me. And also, I think last 6 weeks, he is, if you were to boil it down to one single player that has actually got Leeds over the line in terms of that title, I think it would be Manor Solomon. I think he stepped up. His goal contributions are better than I think pretty much anyone's in terms of, even in that Leeds side of these last 6 weeks. He's just, I think, stepped up is a great way to put it. He has completely stepped up. Gus Hamer is an absolute joke at championship level. Let's get that right. He's brilliant. And when he scored against us at Bramall Lane earlier on in the season, he was brilliant in the reverse fixture as well. I've watched him a number of times this year. James Trafford we spoke about in Golden Glove chat. And then, of course, you've got other teammates in terms of that lead side. But for me, Manor Solomon takes it. And yeah, I just think the brilliance of scoring that goal. And if I was to liken Solomon to anyone, I think you remember Jack Grealish playing for Aston Villa in the Championship. He gives me those sort of vibes. He's got that real triple that just, yeah, I think just that swagger and that elegance about him, and he's an absolute joy to watch. I think he's a fully deserving winner.
There it is, our 8 awards handed out to the individuals and the teams that have made this championship season so special. And we also should give an award to you as well, because you have followed us all the way. It was our first season creating content in the championship, and it's been fantastic. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. We've both had lots of things happen, in our own lives too, that have made it really quite difficult sometimes, but also quite refreshing coming here and talking about football and talking about the thing that we love best. And it would be even more strange if we're setting up a studio in a room or someone's house if nobody was watching it. And that's down to you that do tune in.
We'd probably still do it.
We would still do it. But it's down to you showing your support. Although this is not just another month episode, that series has gone down so well. The numbers and the interaction, we love reading the comments. The first one that hit over 15,000 views, which was just phenomenal. Our brilliant partners in Wood and Grounds too, and I'm pretty sure and I'm comfortable in saying that this video will also be sponsored by Wood and Grounds as well, so you can still get your discount over the summer. Go and get your Wood and Grounds pieces of art, because Matt's been so supportive over this year. We launched a new show in a new division, a lot of unknown, but we got backed really well by them, and then we got backed by the audience that have tuned in and actually just been phenomenal from the start. So this will be the final one you see with us together this season, and then we have a very tricky summer of dealing with non-football stuff, and then we're back anyway. It's not the last video on the channel. We've got a lot of content over the championship period, but in terms of us together, this will be the final one, and we felt we had to do it in person.
Yeah, and as much as we can next season, we'll be doing them in person as well. I think I remember, feels like an absolute lifetime ago, but when we came and sat back here straight after, I don't know when it was it after the...
Barnsley versus Sheffield Wednesday.
We came and sat here and we thought, let's film a video together, why not? And that was almost the birthplace and the sort of the seed of an idea that has grown into a great oak tree that is just another month. Yeah, echo what you said. Thank you for being with us all the way. It's been a real blast, and it's not over yet. We'll be back next season.
We're back next season. Somebody was asking me, are we going to do another one next season? And it was going to be depending on whether or not we stay in the league. That doesn't matter now because we are both staying in the league. So we can confirm just another month we'll be returning to your screens next season, starting with our first episode. We believe, hopefully, will be in July. So stay tuned for July. We're back for that. So you've got a few months.
Good.
You've got a few months without us, but in July we'll be back and talking about the championship. Congratulations again to everybody that won an award and the teams that won an award. And we'll see you very, very soon. Take care. Have a great summer.